Hello to all my friends all over the world. It's so good that you've joined me again for a brand new story in our story time. I'm Granny Ricky, and today we've got a brand new story on my channel, but it's an old story that has been told for hundreds of years. It's one of those fairy tales that your grandmother and your great-grandmother and probably even your great-great-great-grandmother used to tell their children. And the story I'm speaking about is Sleeping Beauty. This edition was written by Miles Kelly, and the beautiful illustrations are by Rosie Butcher. Once upon a time, a beautiful baby girl was born to a king and queen. They had wanted a child for a long time, so they were very happy. There's the king with his big crown on his head, and the queen very happy with her little baby girl. The proud king soon began organizing a christening feast for his little princess. Here he's making all the arrangements. All the king's family and friends were invited to the christening. They also asked the fairies to come, all apart from one, who was known for being mean. On the big day, the guests arrived, bringing lots of lovely gifts. Oh, look at all these guests arriving. And they've got gifts for the new parents and the baby. Can you see those guests with their gifts? And there's the baby sleeping in the crib. What a happy time it is when a new baby arrives. The fairies lined up to give the baby princess her presents. They came forward one by one, casting spells of kindness, beauty, and cleverness. The last fairy was just about to give her gift when there was a loud noise in the courtyard. Crash! What could that be? Look, everybody's surprised at the loud noise in the courtyard. Something went crash. I'm surprised the little baby didn't wake up. Just then, the mean fairy, who had not been invited, burst in angrily and said, "When the princess is 15, she shall touch a spindle and fall down dead." Oh, what a mean thing to say. There's the mean fairy, casting an evil spell on the little princess. The queen collapsed into the king's arms in shock. But then the last fairy stepped forward. "Wait," she said. This fairy says wait. "I can soften the curse a little. If the princess touches a spindle, she will not die. Instead, she will fall asleep for 100 years. Only a prince shall be able to wake her with one single kiss." Huh? The king gave out an order for all the spindles in the land to be destroyed. These are the spinning wheels, and each spinning wheel has a spindle, which is a sharp needle. And now the king wants all of them destroyed so that there's no chance of his little princess pricking her finger. The princess grew up into a beautiful young lady. There she is. She is beautiful, isn't she? One day, while exploring the castle, she came across a door that she hadn't seen before. She opened it and found steps leading up to a mysterious tower. The princess walked up the steps and into a dusty room. There she saw a woman busy at a strange wheel with some thread. "Hello, what are you doing?" she asked the princess. "I'm spinning, my dear," said the woman. The princess walked closer, and as she came to the spindle, she reached out to touch it. Whirr, whirr. "Ouch!" the princess cried as her finger touched the spindle. And while the wicked fairy, for it was she, vanished, the princess fell down asleep. Let's just turn back and see. So this is actually the mean fairy that was there spinning on the spindle, and she tricked the princess. And of course the princess pricked her finger on the spindle, and because of the spell that had been cast on her, she fell fast asleep, and the mean fairy vanished. At that moment, the king and queen fell asleep on their thrones. The horses slept in their stables, and the servants slipped into a slumber. Wow, so it's not just the princess that's fallen asleep, but everybody in the kingdom. The king and the queen and even the servants. They've all fallen asleep, as well as the horses in the stables. Fast asleep. Days, weeks, and then months went past, and a large hedge of thorns grew around the palace. Every year it became thicker until the palace was completely hidden. Oh, look at that! So these thorns, a hedge of thorns were growing around the palace. Look, it's growing up the walls and over the roof, covering up the palace until the palace was completely hidden. Do you see that? Exactly 100 years later, a prince was riding nearby. He could see the tips of a turret above the thorns. As he neared, the hedge parted, allowing him to pass through. So he discovered the palace under all those thorns. The prince eventually arrived at the palace and saw that everyone was asleep. He wondered why everything and everyone had been frozen in time. Finally, he came to the room where the princess was sleeping. She was so beautiful that he stooped down to give her a kiss. At that moment, she opened her eyes and woke up. It was love at first sight. So there's the prince, and just as the spell had been put on her, with one kiss from the prince, she woke up and fell in love with him immediately. Everyone else in the castle awoke. At last the princess was reunited with her mother and father. They were delighted. The evil fairy spell had been broken. Look at everybody. After such a long sleep of 100 years, they're yawning and stretching as they wake up. Sleeping Beauty and the prince were soon married, and they lived happily ever after. Hip, hip, hooray! Look at them there. The prince and the princess married, and everybody's happy. The king and queen are behind them, and they all lived happily ever after. It's always nice when a story ends well. Have you heard that story before? You might well have, because it really is an old favorite. I was very happy today. I received new subscribers on this channel. Have you subscribed yet? If not, please do so. Then you can be reminded when I have new stories out. It's been so good to read this old favorite fairy tale for you. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye, Serena. Mwah.